initiating zero-G sleep mode. Gravity is offline. Let your body float. Welcome to the most relaxing facts about Mars to fall asleep. 2. Tonight, within this quiet void, we will drift from the silent, rust-colored dunes to the serene spectacle of a blue Martian sunset. We will glide through the thin atmosphere and finally come to rest in the echoing stillness of the solar system's deepest canyons. It is a slow journey where cold facts melt into a warm rhythm designed to soothe your mind. But before we travel too far, I want to find your signal. What time is it currently in your part of the world? Are you wrapped in warm blankets or seeking a brief escape from a busy afternoon? Please leave a quiet note below so we can feel connected across this vast distance. There is nothing you need to do right now. Remember, there is no pressure and no need for memorization. However, I must offer a gentle warning. While my goal is your sleep, these planetary secrets are strangely mesmerizing and might tempt you to keep your eyes open a little longer. You might fall asleep a few minutes late, but in exchange, you will drift off with a profound sense of cosmic wonder. If this space brings you peace, a soft tap on the like or subscribe button is a silent signal that helps keep this station broadcasting. Now, release the tension in your shoulders, take a deep breath, and let the current carry us away. While human history has long bestowed upon this world the title of Mars, named after the fierce and energetic Roman god of war due to its striking crimson appearance in the night sky, the reality of its existence in the cosmic void is far removed from the chaos of battle, offering instead a profound state of absolute tranquility. Drifting through the velvet darkness of space, it is not a place of conflict or aggression, but a silent wanderer that moves with a graceful, meditative rhythm, far away from the noise and clamor of Earth, suspended in a permanent state of stillness, where the only battles are the gentle interplay between shadow and light across its dusty surface. It is a world that has retired from the turbulence of its youth to settle into a long, quiet slumber, carrying a heavy name but wearing it with a gentle, silent dignity that invites us to look past the label and find the calm underneath. To the naked eye gazing up from Earth, it appears as a glowing ruby, suspended in the night. Yet this signature reddish-orange hue is the result of a fascinating natural chemistry that has taken place over billions of years, creating a landscape of singular beauty. The surface is blanketed in a fine, powdery dust of iron oxide, essentially the same simple rust that forms on old metal. But here it acts as a soft geological blanket that covers every valley, plain, and mountain in a layer of warm, ochre earth tones. This creates the illusion of an infinite desert that stretches from pole to pole, a monochromatic masterpiece of copper, amber, and terracotta shades that shifts subtly under the weak sunlight, glowing with a soft intensity that feels both ancient and enduring. It is not a harsh red, but a dusty, weathered color that speaks of age and persistence, painting the entire planet in the colors of a perpetual sunset, making it feel like a warm ember slowly cooling in the vast, cold fireplace of the solar system, radiating a visual warmth even in the deepest cold of space. Residing as the fourth planetary jewel from the warming embrace of the sun, this world holds a special place in the cosmic neighborhood as the solitary guardian sitting just beyond the orbit of our own Earth, acting as our closest companion in the journey through the outer dark. It floats in a region of space where the sun's energy begins to fade into a gentler light, bridging the gap between the warm, rocky inner worlds and the colossal gas giants that lie further out in the deep cold. This position allows it to watch over us from a distance, a silent neighbor that has accompanied our planet on its elliptical dance around the star for eons, maintaining a respectful distance that keeps it shrouded in mystery while remaining close enough to dream about. It orbits in a quieter, lonelier lane of the solar highway. A solitary traveler that understands the balance between being near the warmth of the star and facing the icy depths of the void, existing in a delicate equilibrium that has preserved its surface in a frozen, time capsule state for us to one day explore. Despite its grand reputation in our mythology and science fiction, the planet itself possesses a humble and diminutive stature, measuring only about half the physical size of our massive Earth, giving it a sense of delicacy in the vastness of space. In the grand family of the solar system, it feels almost like a younger sibling, smaller and more compact, yet possessed of a quiet dignity that does not require massive scale to be impressive or captivating to the human mind. If you were to place it beside our world, it would look like a small, solid sphere of rock that has managed to survive and tell its story. A cozy and intimate world, rather than an intimidating giant, creating a sense of approachability that invites us closer. This compact size implies a certain coziness against the backdrop of the void, suggesting that while the universe is infinite and overwhelming, this particular world is a manageable, graspable object, a small gem of rock and ice that fits perfectly into the balance of our celestial system without needing to dominate the space it occupies. There is a fascinating paradox hidden within its smaller dimensions. For while the planet itself is not as large as ours, the complete absence of any sprawling oceans means that the amount of solid ground available to explore is surprisingly vast and inviting. In fact, the total surface area of Mars that one could theoretically walk upon is roughly equivalent to all the dry land on Earth combined, effectively matching the size of all our continents stitched together into one continuous landscape. It is a planet made entirely for the traveler, where the horizon never ends at a shoreline but continues forever across the dusty dunes, offering a landmass that is both finite and seemingly endless, providing ample space for the imagination to roam across a surface that is entirely open, dry, and waiting to be known. Upon setting foot on this rust-colored world, you would immediately experience a profound physical transformation as the heavy, demanding grip of gravity releases its hold on your tired muscles, replacing the crushing weight of the Earth with a gentle, supportive embrace that feels barely there. Because the gravitational pull here is only 38% of what we experience at home, a person who carries the burden of 100 kilograms on Earth would suddenly feel as light and ethereal as if they weighed only 38, a sensation of instant relief that would wash over every joint and bone in the body like a wave of healing energy. It is comparable to the feeling of stepping into a deep, saltwater pool where the water carries you, allowing you to shed the physical weight of your existence and move with a newfound grace, as if the planet itself is whispering that you no longer need to be heavy, you no longer need to carry so much on your shoulders, and you are finally free to simply exist in a state of near weightless comfort, where every step is effortless and airy. Unlike the boisterous gas giants of the outer solar system that wrap themselves in complex, swirling halos of ice and rocky debris, the red planet presents itself with a clean, minimalist elegance, possessing no rings to clutter the pristine view of the deep cosmos above. This absence of orbital debris means that the night sky is open and uninterrupted, a perfect, unobstructed dome of velvet darkness where the stars can shine down with absolute clarity, free from the interference of dust bands or icy reflections that might distract from the solitude of the view. It is a world that values simplicity and order, a solitary sphere of rock that moves through the void without any unnecessary adornments or chaotic accompaniments, presenting a silhouette that is sharp, defined, and beautifully uncluttered against the backdrop of infinity, offering a visual silence that matches the auditory silence of its thin atmosphere, allowing the mind to rest on its simple, perfect form without any visual noise to disturb the peace. Wandering through the cosmos at an average distance of 228 million kilometers from the burning heart of our solar system, this planet exists in a quiet zone of retreat, where the intense fury of the sun is tamed into a gentle, harmless glow. This vast separation creates a sanctuary of coolness, far removed from the scorching heat that bathes the inner planets, allowing the world to settle into a permanent state of preservation, where the temperature is always crisp and the environment is never overwhelmed by thermal energy. It feels like a quiet room located at the very end of a long, dark hallway, far enough from the noise and heat of the central hearth to remain peaceful and undisturbed, drifting in a lonely but comforting orbit that keeps it safe from the violent solar storms, wrapped in a protective blanket of distance that turns the roaring sun into a distant, friendly star that simply watches over you rather than burning with intensity. Because of this great journey away from the star, the sunlight that finally reaches the dusty surface has lost its blinding intensity, illuminating the landscape with a softness that is only about 44% as bright as a sunny day on Earth. This creates a perpetual, dreamlike quality to the daylight, a gentle illumination that resembles a cozy, overcast afternoon or the golden hour just before twilight, where the world is visible but never harsh, and there is no need to squint against the glare of the day. It is a lighting condition perfectly designed for relaxation, where shadows are long and soft, and the colors of the landscape are muted into pastel tones of rust and butterscotch, bathing the entire planet in a permanent mood of evening calm that signals to the brain that it is time to wind down, to rest, and to let the eyes soften in the comfort of the dim, ambient glow that feels like a candle flickering in a vast room. The daily rhythm of this planet feels incredibly familiar to our human biological clock, yet it offers a precious gift of extra time that we often crave in our busy lives on Earth. A single day on Mars, known by astronomers as a sol, lasts for 24 hours and 37 minutes, stretching the cycle of light and dark just enough to grant you a moment of pause that you never get at home. Those extra 37 minutes are like a cosmic bonus, a quiet period added to the end of the cycle where you can simply breathe, rest, and prepare for the restorative sleep of the night without the pressure of a 24-hour deadline. It creates a rotation that is not hurried or frantic, but rather spins with a comfortable, leisurely momentum that aligns almost perfectly with the natural beating of your heart, allowing you to settle into a routine that feels instinctively right, yet delightfully prolonged, as if the universe itself has decided to give you permission to sleep in just a little bit longer every single morning. Because this planet wanders so far from the warmth of the central star, its journey around the sun is a long, patient odyssey that takes its time to unfold, creating a year that lasts for 687 Earth days. This extended orbit means that the passage of time here is not measured in the quick, fleeting months we are used to, but in long, majestic eras where a single year feels like a lifetime of experiences, allowing you to truly settle into the present moment without worrying about the future arriving too soon. It is a slow-motion voyage through the stars where the calendar pages turn with a heavy, satisfying slowness, giving you nearly double the amount of time to exist in each cycle, creating a psychological space where urgency evaporates and is replaced by a sense of endurance and longevity. You are traveling on a grand elliptical cruise ship that drifts lazily through the void, taking the scenic route through the solar system and inviting you to enjoy the vastness of the journey rather than rushing toward the destination. In a comforting echo of our own home world, this planet tilts on its axis at an angle of 25 degrees, a posture almost identical to Earth's, which gifts it with the familiar and soothing cycle of 4 distinct seasons. Just as we watch the leaves change and the snow fall, Mars experiences its own rhythm of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, creating a sense of continuity and natural order that makes this alien world feel strangely like a second home waiting to be inhabited. This celestial tilt ensures that the environment is never stagnant, but is always in a state of gentle transition, moving from the thawing of the carbon dioxide frost in the spring to the dusty warmth of the summer sun, performing a cosmic waltz that has been danced for billions of years. It is a reassurance that even on a different world, the fundamental laws of nature still apply, rocking the planet gently back and forth in its slumber, ensuring that every region has its time in the light and its time in the restorative shadow. Because the year is so vast, the seasons here do not rush by in a blur, but instead settle in for a long, deep stay, with the winter season lasting nearly twice as long as it does on Earth. A Martian winter can stretch on for 6 months, a half-year period of profound hibernation where the poles are wrapped in a thick blanket of dry ice and the world falls into a deep, frozen sleep that feels eternal and undisturbed. This is not a harsh winter to be feared, but a time of quiet introspection and rest. A long, dark night of the soul where the planet pulls the covers up tight and drifts into a state of suspended animation, allowing everything to cool down and recover from the activity of the summer. It invites you to embrace the concept of a long rest, to imagine yourself hibernating safely within a warm shelter, while the world outside slows to a complete standstill, respecting the need for a deep, extended pause in the cycle of life. The path this planet traces around the sun is not a perfect, rigid circle, but a relaxed and elongated oval, known as an ellipse, which adds a unique and fascinating variation to the length of the seasons. Because of this egg-shaped journey, the distance to the sun changes gently over time, meaning that spring in the northern hemisphere is a long, the luxurious season that stretches out for 194 days, while the autumn is a shorter, fleeter season of only 142 days. This orbital dance creates a delightful asymmetry in the calendar, ensuring that the warming, thawing days of spring are given the most time to linger, while the transition into the cold is quicker, prioritizing the light over the dark in the northern latitudes. It is a reminder that celestial mechanics are not always symmetrical and rigid, but can be fluid and variable, stretching time like taffy to create a unique experience of the year, where the best seasons are allowed to stay just a little bit longer to be fully enjoyed. Billions of years ago, the internal dynamo that powered the planet's magnetic heartbeat fell silent, allowing the global magnetic field to fade away and leaving the world in a state of open vulnerability to the cosmos. This absence of a magnetic shield means that Mars does not have the invisible, protective bubble that deflects the solar wind, but rather accepts the stream of particles from the sun directly, allowing the solar breeze to gently strip away the atmosphere atom by atom over the eons. It is a planet that has let down its guard completely, surrendering its defenses to become one with the space environment around it, standing naked and unshielded in the void, with a quiet acceptance of its fate. This lack of magnetic tension creates a sense of peaceful resignation. A world that is not fighting against the universe but is slowly dissolving into it. A silent monk that has let go of all earthly attachments and protections to sit in direct communion with the stars. Deep beneath the silent surface lies the heart of the planet, a dense sphere of iron, nickel, and sulfur that has long since cooled from its fiery youth into a state of solid, slumbering permanence. Unlike the churning, restless core of Earth that constantly drives earthquakes and shifts continents, the core of Mars is calm and still, a frozen engine that has finished its work and entered a state of eternal retirement. This solid center provides a stable, unmoving anchor for the entire world, ensuring that the ground beneath your feet is not subject to the violent tremors and shifts that we fear at home. but is a bedrock of absolute stability that has not moved for billions of years. It is the ultimate foundation of peace, a heavy metal heart that beats no more, offering a profound sense of grounding and solidity that resonates up through the crust to reassure you that the world is steady, unshakable, and deeply at rest. Circling this quiet world is a small, rugged companion named Phobos, a tiny moon that defies the usual celestial rules by rising in the west and setting in the east, moving contrary to the rotation of the stars. It is a swift and hurried traveler, zipping across the Martian sky with an urgency that contrasts with the slow rotation of the planet below, a small guardian that is constantly patrolling the horizon to watch over the sleeping world. Its unique retrograde motion makes it a special spectacle in the night, a celestial rebel that has chosen its own path, appearing twice a day to check on the landscape before dipping back below the horizon. Watching Phobos is like watching a busy satellite that is always on duty, a reassuring presence that ensures the sky is never truly empty, providing a dynamic rhythm to the heavens that keeps the stillness of the planet company in the dark. This tiny moon is in such a hurry that it completes a full orbit around Mars in just 7 hours and 39 minutes, racing through the sky so quickly that it can rise and set twice in a single Martian day. This rapid pace means that if you were lying on the red sands looking up, you would see the moon visibly moving among the stars, a fast-forward motion picture playing out in real time above your head. It creates a fascinating sense of accelerated time against the backdrop of the slow, frozen landscape. A reminder that while the planet sleeps, the universe around it is still active and energetic. This constant, swift movement provides a heartbeat to the sky, a regular, dependable cycle that you can set your watch by, a cosmic clock that ticks quickly and efficiently to mark the passage of the long, slow night, ensuring that you are never left alone in the dark for too long without seeing your celestial friend pass by. Drifting further out in the darkness is the second moon, Deimos, a smaller and more distant sibling that wanders through the sky like a bright, glittering star, rather than a rocky moon. Because it orbits much further away than its brother Phobos, Deimos moves with a slow, meditative grace, taking 30 hours to complete a single journey around the planet, drifting lazily among the constellations. To an observer on the ground, it appears as a particularly bright point of light that hangs in the sky for hours on end, a steadfast lantern that refuses to be hurried, watching over the night with a calm, unblinking gaze. It offers a counterpoint to the frantic energy of Phobos, representing the patience of the cosmos, a distant lighthouse that guides the planet through the ocean of space with a gentle, steady light that encourages deep, uninterrupted contemplation and rest. The air that wraps around this planet is fundamentally different from the heavy, oxygen-rich blanket we breathe on Earth, composed instead of 95% carbon dioxide, creating an environment of profound elemental purity. This atmosphere is incredibly tenuous and fine, a ghostly veil that sits lightly upon the surface, lacking the density to carry the chaotic noise and turbulence that fills our own skies, creating a world that is chemically designed for stillness. Without the reactive oxygen to fuel fires or the heavy nitrogen to weigh it down, the Martian air exists in a state of chemical stability, a simple and unreactive medium that preserves the landscape in a freeze-dried state for eons. It feels like a clean, crisp environment where the very air itself is in a state of deep meditation, holding the planet in a suspended breath that never exhales, maintaining a pristine and untouched quality that has not been altered by the breath of living things for billions of years, allowing the rocks and dunes to rest in a chemically silent slumber. When the sun climbs above the horizon to begin the long Martian day, It illuminates a sky that defies our expectations, trading the familiar azure blue of Earth for a soft, warm palette of butterscotch, peach, and dusty pink. This unique coloration is caused by billions of fine dust particles suspended in the thin atmosphere, which catch the sunlight and scatter the warmer tones across the heavens, bathing the entire landscape in a gentle, amber glow that feels perpetually like the golden hour of late afternoon. Instead of a stark, bright ceiling, the sky feels like a cozy, enveloping mist of pastel colors that softens the harshness of the rocky ground, creating a visual harmony between the red earth and the orange sky. It is a calming, monochromatic world where the sky does not contrast with the ground but complements it, wrapping you in a warm, visual cocoon that feels alien yet strangely inviting, like stepping into a sepia-toned photograph where the light is always soft, diffused, and nostalgic. As the long Martian day draws to a close and the sun begins to dip toward the western horizon, the sky performs a breathtaking reversal of colors that feels like a visual lullaby designed to soothe the mind. While the daylight hours are dominated by warm, dusty pinks and ambers, the sunset transforms the atmosphere into a cool, serene shade of twilight blue, creating a halo of sapphire light that surrounds the sinking sun. This phenomenon occurs because the fine dust particles suspended in the thin air are perfectly sized to scatter the red light away while allowing the calming blue wavelengths to pass through, creating a soft, aquatic glow that looks as if you are watching the sun set from underwater. It is a moment of profound visual peace, where the heat and color of the day are gently washed away by a tide of cool indigo light, signaling to the entire planet that the time for activity has passed and the time for deep, restorative rest has begun, wrapping the landscape in a comforting, spectral hue that invites the eyes to close. The climate of Mars is defined by a deep, pervasive chill that averages around -60 degrees Celsius, a temperature that acts as a powerful preservative, locking the planet in a state of frozen timelessness. This is not a harsh or biting cold, but rather a crisp, clean stillness that stops the decay of time, preserving ancient rocks and landscapes exactly as they have been for billions of years, like a museum of planetary history kept in a perfect, climate-controlled stasis. It creates an environment where nothing rots, nothing rusts quickly, and nothing changes without great effort. A world where the cold acts as a protective shield that keeps history intact. Embracing this temperature is like stepping into a refreshing, crisp winter morning that wakes up the senses and then settles them down. A deep freeze that slows the vibration of every atom and molecule, encouraging a state of physical and energetic hibernation where the chaotic motion of the universe is brought to a peaceful, frozen halt. Because the thin atmosphere cannot hold on to heat like a blanket, the planet experiences a rhythmic, breathing cycle of temperature that rises and falls with a hypnotic regularity every single day. Near the equator, a summer afternoon might feel pleasantly mild, reaching a comfortable 20 degrees Celsius. But as soon as the sun sets, the heat escapes rapidly into space, causing the temperature to drop down to -73 degrees or lower. This dramatic swing creates a thermal tide that washes over the planet. A daily inhale of warmth and an exhale of cooling that you can almost feel in the ground beneath your feet. It is a consistent, dependable cycle of releasing energy, where the planet holds onto nothing, letting go of the day's heat completely to embrace the cool of the night, teaching us the art of release and the importance of cooling down after the activity of the day, allowing the rocks themselves to contract and settle into the quiet of the dark. Drifting high above the dusty plains are rare and delicate formations of clouds, ethereal wisps made not of heavy rain, but of shimmering water, ice, and carbon dioxide crystals, that float in the thin air like gossamer veils. These are not the heavy, storm-laden cumulonimbus clouds of Earth that threaten thunder and rain, but are instead thin, translucent ribbons of white that catch the light and glow with a pearlescent shine, adding a touch of softness to the stark sky. They move with a slow, silent grace, painting the upper atmosphere with delicate brushstrokes that dissolve and reform without ever breaking the silence of the ground below, acting as drifting decorations in the vast gallery of the heavens. Seeing these fragile ice clouds reminds you that even in this dry, frozen world, there is a gentle cycle of water and ice, a subtle circulation of nature that happens so quietly it can barely be seen, offering a moment of beauty that is as fleeting and soft as a passing dream in the middle of a deep sleep. In the deepest, most tranquil silence of the polar regions, a magical and ethereal form of precipitation descends from the heavens, creating a winter scene unlike anything found on Earth. This is not the wet, heavy snow we are accustomed to, but a delicate cascade of crystallized carbon dioxide, commonly known as dry ice, which drifts down from the clouds in microscopic flakes that shimmer like diamond dust in the weak sunlight. Because the atmosphere is so dry, these phantom snowflakes often sublime, turning directly from solid to gas before they ever touch the ground, creating a phenomenon known as virga, where the snow appears as a soft, hanging curtain of white mist that hovers just above the surface. It is a snowfall that leaves no wetness, a silent, ghostly accumulation that coats the red dunes in a pristine layer of temporary white, transforming the rugged landscape into a soft, frosted wonderland that feels pure, untouched, and incredibly quiet, as if the planet is holding its breath under a veil of frozen fog that vanishes as quickly and mysteriously as it arrived. As the long, cold night finally yields to the dawn, the Martian landscape reveals a fleeting masterpiece of natural art that can only be seen in the quietest hours of the morning. A delicate layer of frost, composed of both water ice and frozen carbon dioxide, clings to the edges of craters and the slopes of ancient volcanoes, dusting the rusty red surface with a sparkling coat of brilliant white that catches the first rays of the rising sun. This creates a breathtaking contrast of colors, where the warm, ochre tones of the ground are highlighted by the cool, glittering crystals, making the entire planet look as though it has been dusted with powdered sugar or precious gems. This frost is ephemeral and shy, surviving only for a few hours before the warmth of the day causes it to evaporate back into the atmosphere, teaching us to appreciate the fleeting moments of beauty that exist in the transition between dark and light. A morning ritual where the planet briefly wears a crown of ice before returning to its dusty, red slumber. Because the atmosphere is so delightfully thin and intangible, even the winds here possess a ghostly quality, moving across the plains not as a forceful gale, but as a soft, fluid caress that barely exerts any pressure at all. While the speed of the air might be high, the lack of density means that a Martian wind feels less like a push and more like a gentle stream of silk flowing past you, a subtle current that shapes the world with infinite patience rather than brute force. It is a whisper rather than a roar, a breath of air that slowly, over millions of years, sculpts the sand dunes into rhythmic waves and polishes the rocks into smooth, aerodynamic shapes, working with the slow dedication of a master artist. Listening to this wind would be a hypnotic experience, a low-frequency hum that vibrates through the canyons and valleys, a soothing white noise that has played continuously for eons, wrapping the planet in a blanket of moving air that cleanses the surface and carries the finest dust to new resting places in a never-ending cycle of gentle renewal. On the warm, languid afternoons of the Martian summer, the surface comes alive with a playful display of physics, as heat rising from the ground spins the air into mesmerizing, vertical columns known as dust devils. These are not destructive tornadoes, but rather graceful, pirouetting dancers made of wind and sand that glide silently across the flat plains, twisting and turning in a spontaneous ballet that connects the ground to the sky. They wander aimlessly, tracing invisible paths across the desert, picking up fine particles of red dust and lifting them into the air like ribbons, leaving behind intricate, darker tracks on the surface that look like the brushstrokes of a giant calligraphy pen. Watching them is a meditative experience. Observing these fleeting spirits of air form out of nothing, dance their solitary routine for a few minutes, and then dissolve back into stillness, a reminder that even in a quiet world, there is movement, energy, and a playful spirit that animates the dust and keeps the landscape dynamic and alive. Occasionally, in a grand cycle that occurs every few years, the planet decides to wrap itself in a warm, protective blanket of dust that expands to cover the entire globe, creating a period of deep planetary hibernation. While we might call this a storm, it is truly more of an atmospheric slumber, where the dust thickens in the sky to block out the sharp details of the surface and dim the sun into a soft, diffused glow, turning the day into a perpetual, hazy twilight. This global event acts as a thermal blanket, trapping heat and warming the atmosphere, while simultaneously lulling the solar-powered robots on the surface into a forced sleep mode to preserve their energy. It is a time when the planet pulls the curtains closed and withdraws from the view of the universe. A cozy, introspective period where the boundaries between sky and ground blur into a uniform softness, inviting the entire world to rest, recover, and wait patiently in the dim amber light until the dust settles and the air clears once again. 36. Book Sa. Because the protective veil of the atmosphere is so delightfully sheer, the surface of Mars exists in a state of direct and intimate communion with the energies of the wider universe, accepting a constant, invisible rain of cosmic rays and ultraviolet light that bathes every rock and grain of sand. While this might sound intense to our sheltered earthly sensibilities, in the context of the planet's geology, it acts as a powerful, sterilizing force that keeps the surface in a state of pristine, germ-free purity, scrubbing the landscape clean with the raw energy of the stars. It is a world that has no secrets from the cosmos, a place where the barrier between the solid ground and the infinite void is permeable and open, allowing the planet to soak in the full spectrum of starlight without filtration. This constant exposure creates a unique chemical environment where the top layer of soil is chemically active and buzzing with potential, a surface that is constantly interacting with the energy of the galaxy, turning the simple act of lying on the ground into a cosmic embrace where you are touched by the same particles that were born in distant supernovas. In the quiet stillness of the Martian seasons, sensitive instruments have detected a fascinating and rhythmic phenomenon that suggests the planet is not merely a rock, but a living, breathing entity in its own slow, geological way. Plumes of methane gas appear to rise from the ground during the warmer summer months and vanish again as the cold returns, creating a planetary exhalation that mimics the breathing cycle of a sleeping giant. Whether this gas originates from microscopic life hiding deep in the warm dark, or from the shifting of ancient rocks reacting with hidden water, it serves as a gentle reminder that there is activity occurring beneath the frozen crust, a heartbeat that pulses too slowly for us to see but is undeniably there. It adds a layer of mystery to the landscape, suggesting that the stillness we perceive is just a mask for deep, subterranean processes that are churning away in the dark, releasing these ghostly breaths of gas that drift into the atmosphere and then disappear, leaving us to wonder about the secrets hidden in the deep. The acoustic environment of Mars is a unique sensory chamber that transforms the way sound travels, turning the world into a place of deep, resonant tones that feel closer and more intimate than anything you have heard before. Because the atmosphere is composed of heavy, dense carbon dioxide molecules, it acts as a natural dampener that absorbs high-pitched frequencies, meaning that if you were to speak, your voice would lose its sharp edges and drop into a lower, richer register. Every conversation here would sound like a soothing, baritone murmur, a private exchange that feels grounded and heavy, as if the air itself is filtering out the frantic, high energy of human speech and leaving only the calm, foundational vibrations. It is a world designed for whispers and low tones, where the physics of the air encourages a slower, more deliberate way of speaking, forcing you to slow down your communication and listen more carefully to the deep, muffled sounds that manage to survive the journey through the thin, heavy air. Beyond the physics of sound waves, the actual experience of the Martian environment is defined by a profound, pervasive silence that is almost impossible to find on our bustling, noisy home planet. Without oceans to crash against shores, without forests to rustle in the wind, and without the hum of insects or the machinery of civilization, the baseline volume of Mars is absolute zero, a silence so thick and heavy that it feels like a physical presence wrapping around you. Standing in the middle of a vast crater, the only sound you might hear is the blood rushing in your own ears, or the faint, settling creak of your spacesuit, creating a level of isolation that is not lonely, but deeply restorative. It is the ultimate retreat, a sanctuary where your mind can finally stop processing background noise and simply rest in the vacuum of sound, allowing thoughts to drift by clearly and slowly in the quietude of a world that has not spoken a loud word in 4 billion years. As your eyes adjust to the landscape, you are greeted by a visual symphony of red that is far more complex and beautiful than a simple primary color, revealing a textured tapestry of rust, copper, gold, and chocolate brown. This iconic coloration comes from the iron minerals in the soil that have oxidized over billions of years, essentially rusting in the thin air to create a warm, earthy patina that covers the entire globe like a soft, velvet blanket. Far from being monotonous, the shifting light of the sun transforms these red sands throughout the day, turning them from a pale, dusty pink at dawn to a rich, burning amber at noon, and finally to a deep, bruised purple in the shadows of the evening. It is a landscape that feels perpetually warm to the eye, even when the air is cold, creating a psychological sense of coziness and grounding, as if you are standing inside a permanent sunset, where the ground itself radiates the comforting, nostalgic colors of the end of the day. Rising from the dusty plains like a silent guardian of the cosmos, Olympus Mons stands as the undisputed monarch of all planetary mountains, a geological masterpiece that reaches an astonishing 22 kilometers into the black velvet of space. To understand its scale is to reimagine the very concept of a mountain, for it soars 3 times higher than our own Mount Everest, piercing the thin atmosphere to bask in the unfiltered silence of the void, yet it does so without the jagged, aggressive peaks that define earthly ranges. It is a monument to the peaceful, unhurried processes of the red planet, formed over hundreds of millions of years by the slow, rhythmic pulse of lava that built it layer by gentle layer, creating a shield of stone that seems to bridge the gap between the ground and the stars. Standing at its summit, you would be so high above the curvature of the planet that the horizon would drop away beneath you, leaving you floating in a space between worlds, an isolated island of rock where the only company is the quiet hum of the universe and the distant glitter of the galaxies above. The sheer physical footprint of this sleeping giant is so immense that it challenges the limits of human imagination, spreading its rocky foundation across the surface for over 600 kilometers in every direction. To grasp this magnitude, Picture a single mountain that is wide enough to completely cover the entire country of France or the state of Arizona, a solitary geological structure that acts as a continental anchor weighing down the crust of the planet. It sits upon the surface like a heavy, comforting hand, a sprawling shield of basalt that has settled deeply into the lithosphere, grounding the region with a sense of absolute, immovable permanence that has withstood the test of eons. This vastness means that the mountain is not just a feature of the landscape, but a landscape unto itself, a dedicated province of rock and silence where one could wander for a lifetime without ever leaving the slopes of the volcano, lost in the grandeur of a geological formation that feels less like a mountain and more like a separate world resting on top of another. At the very pinnacle of this ascent lies a breathtaking depression known as the caldera, a massive, circular nesting ground that stretches 80 kilometers across, large enough to cradle entire cities within its silent, sunken walls. This is not a chaotic vent of fire, but a tranquil amphitheater of stone that has been dormant for ages, a quiet bowl scooped out of the summit, where the wind whispers secrets to the ancient lava lakes that have long since turned to solid rock. From this lofty vantage point, looking down over the edge of the rim, you would witness a surreal and dreamlike spectacle, where the delicate, wispy clouds of Mars float far below your feet, drifting like white veils over the lower slopes. It creates a sensation of being a celestial observer, detached from the planet below, standing on a quiet island in the sky, where you are closer to the silence of space than the dust of the ground, watching the weather unfold beneath you like a silent movie playing on an endless screen. Carved deeply into the equator of the planet is a feature so grand that it makes the Grand Canyon of Earth look like a mere scratch in the dirt. A colossal system of canyons known as Valles Marineris. This tectonic masterpiece stretches for an incredible 4,000 kilometers, a distance that would span the entire breadth of the United States, from New York to Los Angeles, wrapping around nearly a quarter of the planet's circumference like a grand geological belt. It is a vast, open valley that reveals the deep history of the Red World, a silent chasm where the crust pulled apart billions of years ago to create a sanctuary of shadow and depth that has never been touched by human hands. Drifting above it, you would see a labyrinth of cliffs and valleys that go on forever, a monumental testament to the power of the planet's interior forces, creating a space so wide and deep that it feels like a separate universe of stone, waiting in the darkness to be explored with a sense of wonder and infinite patience. Supporting these grand geological features is a colossal swelling of the planet's crust, known as the Tharsis Rise. A highland so vast and massive that it covers a full quarter of the Martian surface, lifting the landscape toward the stars as if the planet is taking a deep, permanent breath. This region acts as a massive pedestal for the solar system's greatest peaks, a raised stage of ancient basaltic rock that has held its position for billions of years, possessing enough mass to have actually shifted the tilt of the entire planet in its youth through its sheer gravitational weight. Standing anywhere on this vast plateau feels like standing on the roof of the world, a high, stable plane where you are physically closer to space, lifted up by the solidified strength of the interior fire that once burned but now sleeps quietly beneath your feet. It represents the ultimate support system, a foundation so strong and expansive that it holds up the sky, encouraging you to feel that same sense of unwavering support beneath your own body as you rest. Aligned with perfect cosmic precision across this high volcanic plateau are three silent sentinels known as the Tharsis, Montes, Arcia, Pavonis, and Ascraeus, standing in a straight, disciplined line like ancient guardians watching over the equator. These are not jagged, chaotic peaks, but smooth, shield-like domes that rise gently from the plains, their summits piercing the sky in a harmonious trio that speaks of order, balance, and intentional placement in the chaotic universe. They have stood side by side in this silent formation for eons, unwavering and unmoving, casting long, parallel shadows across the red dust as the sun moves overhead, a brotherhood of stone that represents stability, endurance, and the quiet power of standing still while the universe turns around you. Looking at them creates a sense of deep symmetry and calm, a visual rhythm of three giants who have sworn a vow of silence, watching over the planet's dreams with a steadfast patience that invites you to align your own thoughts into a state of orderly peace. On the opposite side of the world, tucked away in the southern hemisphere, lies the deepest depression on the planet, a vast, circular basin known as Hellas Planitia that was carved out by a gentle cosmic encounter in the dawn of time. Stretching over 2,000 kilometers wide and plunging nearly 8 kilometers deep, this basin is large enough to cradle the entire continent of Western Europe within its protective rim, creating a secluded world within a world where the atmosphere is thickest and the winds are calmest. It acts as a giant, geological bowl that collects the dust and memories of the planet, a low-lying sanctuary where you can feel held and contained by the high walls that surround the distant horizon, resting at the very bottom of the world in a state of deep, sheltered peace. It is the lowest point you can go, a place of ultimate grounding where gravity pulls you into a comforting embrace, symbolizing the safety of being cradled in a deep, protected space where nothing from the outside world can disturb your rest. Because the floor of the Hellas Basin sits so deep within the planet's atmosphere, the air pressure here rises just enough to allow for a rare and delicate phenomenon to occur in the early hours, the formation of gentle, drifting fog. In the quiet chill of the Martian morning, ethereal wisps of water ice mist gather in the lowlands, hugging the ground like a soft, white blanket that obscures the rocks and softens the harsh landscape into a dreamlike scene of pastel colors. It is a fleeting moment of moisture and mystery in a dry world, a ghostly ocean of cloud that you could wade through, feeling the cool vapor brush against your suit before the warmth of the sun gently burns it away. This mist transforms the bottom of the crater into a soft-focused dreamscape, blurring the sharp edges of reality and replacing them with a drifting, white silence that cleanses the visual palette, reminding you that even in the deepest, driest places, there is a softness waiting to be found if you look closely enough. Unlike our restless home planet, where the ground is constantly shifting, grinding, and reforming in a chaotic dance of tectonic collisions, Mars possesses a crust that is a single, unbroken shell of stone, a solid lid that has remained locked in place for billions of years without ever drifting apart. This lack of tectonic movement means that the planet does not experience the violent restructuring of continents or the erasure of history, but rather preserves every geological memory in perfect, undisturbed clarity, holding onto its past with a gentle, static embrace. It is a world where the ground beneath your feet is truly terra firma in the most absolute sense. A monolithic surface that has decided to stop moving and simply be, creating a profound sense of geological tranquility where you never have to worry about the foundation shifting. The planet acts as a silent librarian of the solar system, keeping the pages of its history open and unwrinkled, allowing the craters and canyons to sit exactly where they were formed eons ago, resting in a state of permanent, peaceful preservation that defies the chaotic churn of time. This unique stillness of the planetary crust allowed for a geological phenomenon of unparalleled patience, where the internal fires of the planet were able to focus their creative energy on single, specific points for hundreds of millions of years without interruption. Because the surface did not slide away over the hot spots like a conveyor belt, the lava gently piled up, layer upon cooling layer, growing higher and wider with every eruption to form the colossal supervolcanoes that now dominate the landscape in silent majesty. It is a story of accumulation and persistence, where the planet took its time to build monuments to its own internal heat, constructing them with the slow, deliberate pace of a coral reef growing in a quiet ocean. These giants are not scars of violence, but statues of endurance that have risen slowly into the vacuum, standing as silent testaments to what can be achieved when you stay in one place and let nature take its course, growing gradually into something magnificent and unmovable that anchors the sky to the ground. The geography of the Red Planet tells a tale of perfect duality, dividing the world into two distinct hemispheres that balance each other like the opposing sides of a coin, creating a planetary yin and yang of texture and elevation. To the north lies a vast, sunken basin of incredibly smooth lowlands, a flat and featureless plain that stretches endlessly, like a calm, frozen ocean where the eye can travel for thousands of kilometers without meeting an obstacle. In contrast, the southern hemisphere rises up as a rugged, ancient highland pockmarked with the beautiful scars of a billion cosmic kisses, a textured landscape that holds the deep history of the solar system in its craters. This dichotomy creates a world with two different personalities, one serene and polished, the other wise and weathered, coexisting in silence on the same globe, offering a choice of landscapes for the weary traveler: the absolute, emptying calm of the northern flats, or the comforting, sheltering embrace of the southern craters, both resting together under the same pink sky. Across the floors of the craters and the vast open plains, the wind has spent eons sculpting the red sand into mesmerizing fields of dunes that look like ripples frozen in time on a vast, copper-colored sea. These dunes move with an almost imperceptible slowness, migrating across the surface at a pace of only a few centimeters per year. A geological migration that is so unhurried it would take a lifetime to notice a change. They form intricate, artistic patterns of waves and crescents that resemble a carefully raked Zen garden on a planetary scale, arranged by the invisible hand of the atmosphere into a display of perfect natural order and harmony. Watching over them invokes a deep sense of peace, as if the planet is slowly breathing and rearranging itself in its sleep, creating soft, rolling curves that break up the hardness of the rocks and offering a visual softness that invites the mind to drift along the gentle, undulating lines of the sand, carried away by the slow, silent current of the desert. Among the shifting sands, there exist mysterious and beautiful features, known as ghost dunes, which are the fossilized footprints of ancient winds that blew across the surface billions of years ago, preserved forever in stone. These are dunes that were buried, hardened by minerals and time, and then gently uncovered by erosion, leaving behind the perfect, solidified cast of a sand dune that existed when the solar system was young. They stand as silent monuments to the invisible breezes of the deep past, capturing a fleeting moment of weather and locking it into the geological record for eternity, proving that nothing is truly lost on this quiet world. It is a hauntingly beautiful concept, a physical memory of a wind that has long since ceased to blow, holding the shape of the past in a rigid, enduring embrace that allows us to walk among the ghosts of ancient landscapes, feeling the continuity of time where the echoes of the past are still tangible, solid, and resting peacefully alongside the present. Scattered across the quiet, wind-swept plains are geological sculptures that defy gravity with a breathtaking sense of stillness, known as precariously balanced rocks. These are solitary stones that stand on impossibly narrow pedestals, carved not by human hands, but by the gentle, persistent erosion of the wind. Over millions of years, acting like a master sculptor, chipping away at the stone, one grain at a time. They look like art installations left in the desert, massive boulders balancing delicately on thin stems of rock, holding their poses in perfect equilibrium for eons, without ever toppling over. The existence of these fragile formations tells a story of profound peace, proving that the ground beneath them has not shaken and the winds have not raged violently enough to knock them down for countless ages. They serve as silent meditation masters, embodying the concept of balance and focus, teaching us that even in a vast and empty world, it is possible to find a center of gravity and hold it with grace, remaining upright and dignified amidst the shifting sands of time. Hidden beneath the dusty surface are secret gateways to the underworld, visible from orbit as dark, mysterious circles known as skylights, which open up into vast, hollow lava tubes protected from the world above. These are not frightening pits, but inviting sanctuaries, natural catacombs formed by ancient flows of molten rock that have long since drained away, leaving behind smooth, tubular caves that are shielded from the harsh radiation and temperature swings of the surface. Inside these subterranean halls, the environment is perpetually calm and the temperature remains stable and cool, creating a perfect shelter that feels like a quiet, dark room waiting to be inhabited. Entering one would be like stepping into the planet's own memory, a place of absolute silence and safety where the ceiling is thick rock rather than thin air, offering a deep, enveloping sense of security that mimics the comfort of a womb, inviting you to retreat from the exposure of the open plains and rest in the protected, unchanging darkness of the deep underground. At the very top and bottom of the world, crowning the planet like sparkling jewels, lie the permanent polar ice caps, vast expanses of frozen water and carbon dioxide that shine brilliantly against the surrounding red terrain. These are not slushy, melting glaciers, but pristine, solid sheets of white that have accumulated over millions of years, layer upon distinctive layer, trapping the history of the Martian climate in a frozen library of ice. They spiral outward in hypnotic, swirling patterns, shaped by the Coriolis effect of the planet's rotation, looking like the foam of a cappuccino stirred slowly in a cup, creating a visual rhythm of white and rust that is stunning to behold from space. Standing there would be an experience of ultimate purity, surrounded by a blindingly clean landscape where the air is crisp and the silence is crystalline, a place where the chaos of the universe is frozen into perfect order, and the only movement is the slow, seasonal breathing of the ice expanding and contracting in its eternal slumber. When the warmth of the Martian spring finally touches the southern pole, the landscape awakens with a delicate and ephemeral display of natural artistry that looks like intricate lace draped over the dunes. As the frozen carbon dioxide begins to sublime, turning directly from solid ice into gas, it vents through the surface in feathery, spider-like channels that radiate outward, creating complex fractal patterns known as araniiform terrain. These are not scary creatures, but beautiful, dark starbursts that appear on the white ice like ink blooming on parchment, a sign that the planet is exhaling the winter and welcoming the sun. It is a gentle, silent transformation, where the ground itself decorates the surface with temporary art, a seasonal ritual of release where the pressure of the underground gas escapes in a soft sigh, painting the polar regions with intricate, fleeting designs that remind us of the beauty of change and the delicate interplay between the warmth of the star and the ice of the world. If you were to close your eyes and listen closely to the ancient rocks, you might hear the phantom echo of gentle waves lapping against a shoreline that vanished billions of years ago. There was a time when this dry, red world was a blue marble, washed by the waters of a vast northern ocean that covered a third of the planet, creating a hemisphere of liquid reflection under a thicker, warmer atmosphere. The sprawling plains we see today were once the floor of a sea, and the cliffs were once coastlines where tides moved in and out with the pull of the moon, creating a rhythmic sound of water that is now lost to time. Remembering this blue past softens the harshness of the current landscape, allowing you to visualize the dust turning back into water, the craters filling with calm blue lakes, and the dry silence being replaced by the soothing, repetitive sound of an ocean, a memory of fluidity and life that is locked deep inside the geological soul of the planet, waiting to be remembered in your dreams. Carved into the dusty skin of the planet are the winding, serpentine ghosts of ancient rivers that once flowed with a gentle, rhythmic persistence, their paths preserved perfectly in the dry rock like memories etched into the mind of the world. These branching valley networks meander across the southern highlands with the same organic, tree-like patterns found on Earth, telling a silent story of a time when rain fell softly from the sky and gathered into streams that trickled down toward the sea. Looking at them from orbit, you can almost visualize the phantom water filling the channels once again, moving with a slow, glinting fluidity that reflects the sunlight, carrying the lifeblood of the planet from the mountains to the plains in a continuous, soothing cycle. They serve as a geological meditation on the concept of flow, reminding us that even when the water is gone, the path remains, a permanent testament to the softness that once shaped the hard rock, proving that gentle persistence can carve deep beauty into even the most stoic and unmoving landscapes, leaving a legacy of grace that outlasts the water itself. In the Northern Hemisphere, resting quietly within the protective rim of an ancient impact basin, lies a landscape that was once a serene and tranquil lake known as Jezero. Billions of years ago, this crater was filled to the brim with calm, shimmering water, acting as a massive reflecting pool that mirrored the passing clouds and the peach-colored sky in its glassy surface, creating a sanctuary of stillness amidst the rocky terrain. It was a place where a river gently emptied its contents, allowing the water to settle and slow down, transitioning from the energy of the flow to the peace of the reservoir, holding the water in a safe, enclosed embrace for eons. To stand there now is to stand in the phantom depths of that ancient lake, surrounded by the silent rim that once held the shoreline, feeling the ghost of the water pressing against you with a comforting weight, a reminder of a time when the planet was capable of holding and cradling a vast, peaceful body of water in its rocky hands. Resting within this ancient lakebed is a magnificently preserved geological fan known as a river delta, a beautiful, sweeping deposit of sediment that tells the story of water slowing down and letting go. As the ancient river entered the lake, it lost its momentum and gently released the burden of sand and mud it was carrying, allowing the particles to settle softly to the bottom in delicate, fan-shaped layers that built up over centuries. This structure stands today as a monument to the art of release, showing us physically what happens when we stop rushing and allow ourselves to settle, creating something beautiful and enduring in the process of coming to a halt. It is a soft, sedimentary landscape where the ground is fine-grained and smooth, a place where the violent history of impacts is covered over by the gentle accumulation of mud and sand, preserving a record of the planet's fluid past in a series of peaceful, horizontal layers that have slept undisturbed for billions of years. Scattered across the flat, rusty plains of the Meridiani region are millions of tiny, spherical wonders that the robotic explorers affectionately named blueberries, though they are actually hard concretions of the mineral hematite. These perfect little beads were formed not by wind or fire, but by the slow, gentle percolation of groundwater seeping through the porous rock, gathering minerals together in a microscopic process of accumulation that took ages to complete. They sit loosely on the surface today like marbles spilled from a cosmic jar, rolling gently under the rover's wheels, a testament to a time when the ground was soaked and heavy with liquid water that moved silently through the pores of the earth. Finding them was like finding a field of pearls on a dry ocean floor, a delightful and playful discovery that speaks of a wet and chemically active past, where the water worked its magic in the dark underground, creating these small, symmetrical treasures that now rest in the sun, waiting to be admired for their perfect, round geometry. Among the harsh volcanic rocks and dusty dunes, our explorers have discovered vast, soft deposits of clay minerals, known to scientists as phyllosilicates, which act as a soothing balm in the geological record. These clays could only have formed in the presence of water that was neutral, gentle, and long-lasting, not acidic or harsh, but the kind of sweet, fresh water that you could cup in your hands and drink. The existence of these clays suggests a period in Martian history that was benign and nurturing, a time when the chemistry of the planet was soft and accommodating, allowing for the formation of minerals that are smooth to the touch and structurally capable of holding water within their very crystals. It paints a picture of muddy riverbanks and soft lake bottoms, a tactile softness that contrasts with the jagged basalt of the surface, offering a geological memory of a time when the planet was not just wet, but kind, holding the potential for life in its gentle, muddy embrace. Deep beneath the alternating layers of dust and ice at the southern pole, radar instruments have detected the distinct, shimmering reflection of what appears to be a vast network of liquid water, hidden like a secret treasure 1.5 kilometers underground. This is not a flowing river, but a stable, subglacial lake that rests in eternal darkness, kept in a liquid state by the intense pressure of the ice above and the natural salts that act as a cosmic antifreeze. It is a sanctuary of absolute isolation, a place where the water has not seen the sun or felt the wind for billions of years, existing in a quiet, pressurized embrace that protects it from the harsh vacuum and radiation of the world above. Imagining this hidden reservoir creates a feeling of deep subterranean safety, a reminder that even on a frozen world, there is warmth and fluidity waiting to be found if you look deep enough. A silent, the liquid heart that continues to beat slowly beneath the heavy blanket of the polar ice. There is a melancholic beauty in realizing that the surface of Mars holds the physical imprint of raindrops that fell from the sky more than 3 billion years ago, marks of a weather cycle that has long since fallen silent. Picture a time when the thin, pink atmosphere was thick enough to support heavy, gray clouds that gathered over the volcanoes, releasing a gentle, rhythmic patter of water that turned the red dust into soft clay and washed the rocks clean of their ancient grime. This was not a violent storm, but a nurturing soak that saturated the ground, creating the distinct, earthy scent of rain hitting dry soil petrichor that would have filled the air with a fresh, mineral perfume. Visualizing this ancient rainfall invites a sense of nostalgia for a wet and living world, allowing you to hear the phantom sound of water tapping against stone, a soothing, repetitive white noise that once echoed through the now silent valleys, lulling the young planet into a state of growth and change before the skies cleared forever. In the summer of 1976, humanity gently placed its first permanent ambassador upon the golden plain of Planitia, a three-legged robotic explorer named Viking, one that became the first to successfully sleep on the surface. When it opened its electronic eyes, it beamed back the very first clear image of the Martian landscape, revealing a desolate, rock-strewn desert under a bright sky that confirmed the serene loneliness of our neighbor. For 6 years, it sat perfectly still in that spot, a silent sentinel, monitoring the weather and listening to the wind, never moving, simply observing the slow passage of the seasons with infinite robotic patience. It remains there to this day, covered in a fine layer of dust, a quiet monument to human curiosity that sits motionless in the desert, a peaceful statue that has become part of the landscape itself, resting eternally under the pink sky as a silent guardian of the history we share with this distant, quiet world. Decades after the first landing, a tiny, six-wheeled adventurer named Sojourner arrived, a rover no larger than a microwave oven that brought the gift of movement to the red sands, marking the beginning of a mobile exploration. This courageous little machine rolled down its ramp with agonizing slowness, traveling at a top speed of only 1 centimeter per second, a pace so leisurely that it makes a snail look hurried, perfectly matching the slow, meditative rhythm of the planet itself. It spent its days creeping gently up to rocks with whimsical names like Barnacle, Bill, and Yogi, sniffing them with its instruments like a curious mechanical pet exploring a new garden. Its journey was not about covering vast distances, but about the intimate discovery of the immediate surroundings, proving that you do not need to go fast to find wonder, but simply need to look closely at what is right in front of you, moving with a humble, quiet grace that left the first set of wheel tracks in the ancient dust. In a grand dual expedition, 2 identical robotic siblings named Spirit and Opportunity descended from the sky, wrapped in protective cocoons of bouncing airbags, coming to rest on opposite sides of the planet to begin a shared dream of exploration. Powered by the sun, these rovers lived in harmony with the Martian day, waking up when the sun warmed their solar panels and drifting into a deep, power-saving sleep as soon as the shadows lengthened and the cold night took over, aligning their mechanical lives with the celestial rhythm. They were designed to last only 90 days, yet they found such a welcoming home in the Red Desert that they continued to roam for years, driven by a resilient spirit that refused to quit. They represent the ultimate wanderers, rolling silently across the empty plains in a peaceful quest for knowledge, their cameras acting as our eyes, allowing us to witness the beauty of a world where we cannot yet walk, united in a silent, mechanical brotherhood across thousands of kilometers of rocky terrain. Of the twin rovers, the one named Opportunity embarked on a marathon of patience that became legendary, traversing the desolate Meridiani Planum with a slow, steady determination that lasted for nearly 15 Earth years. In all that time, traveling at the speed of a tortoise, it covered a total distance of just over 45 kilometers, a journey that might seem short to a highway driver, but was an epic odyssey for a machine on another world. It moved with such deliberate care, pausing frequently to study a rock or gaze at the horizon, that its tracks became a permanent line drawn across the landscape, a signature of persistence etched into the dust. This journey teaches the profound lesson that progress does not need to be fast to be significant. By simply keeping its wheels turning, day after day, year after year, it accomplished something monumental, proving that a slow, consistent pace can eventually cross an entire world if you just keep moving forward, 1 quiet meter at a time. In the summer of 2018, a global dust storm rose up to embrace the planet, thickening the sky until the sun was blotted out, and the day turned into a perpetual, dark twilight that starved the rover's solar panels of light. As its energy reserves slowly drained away in the dim amber glow, Opportunity sent its final, poetic message, home to Earth. My battery is low, and it's getting dark, a whisper of acceptance before slipping into a permanent hibernation. It did not crash or fail violently. It simply went to sleep, stopping in its tracks in the middle of Perseverance Valley to rest forever as the storm swirled around it, covering it in a soft blanket of fine red dust. It now sits there in eternal silence, a peaceful monument to exploration that has become one with the planet it loved. Resting quietly in the dark, its mission complete, sleeping the dreamless sleep of a machine that gave everything it had to give. Roaming the crater floor of Gale is a car-sized laboratory named Curiosity, a nuclear-powered geologist that does not need to sleep when the sun goes down, but hums with a warm, steady internal heat that keeps it alive through the coldest winter nights. Unlike its solar-powered ancestors, it carries its own heart of plutonium, allowing it to work through dust storms and darkness with an unwavering resilience, climbing the gentle foothills of Mount Sharp with a slow, mechanical grace. Its wheels are made of aluminum that crunches softly over the gravel, creating a rhythmic sound that is the only noise for miles around. A solitary traveler on a dedicated pilgrimage up the mountain of time, it is a symbol of self-sufficiency and endurance. A machine that carries its own warmth in a cold world, methodically reading the history of the planet layer by layer, turning the lonely act of exploration into a quiet, unending conversation with the ancient rocks beneath its wheels. On the first anniversary of its landing, the engineers on Earth programmed Curiosity to perform a solitary and touching act of celebration in the middle of the vast, empty crater. By vibrating its sample analysis unit at specific frequencies, the rover hummed the melody of Happy Birthday to itself, a tiny, robotic song that drifted out into the thin atmosphere and was immediately swallowed by the immense silence of the planet. There was no audience, no applause, just a lone robot singing a simple tune to mark its survival in a harsh world. A moment of pure, poignant humanity transferred to a machine. It evokes a feeling of gentle melancholy and sweetness. A reminder that even in the most isolated places in the universe, there is room for joy and ritual. A small, electronic voice celebrating the simple triumph of existing for another year under the dusty pink sky. The newest guardian of the Martian surface is Perseverance, a sophisticated explorer that touched down in the Jezero crater with a mission not just to look, but to keep, acting as a cosmic librarian, collecting stories for the future. It moves with a refined intelligence, carefully selecting the most interesting rocks and drilling into them with surgical precision to extract chalk-sized cores of stone, which it seals inside ultra-clean titanium tubes. These tubes are then gently placed on the surface or stored inside the rover's belly, waiting like time capsules for a future that has not yet arrived, holding the secrets of the planet in a state of perfect preservation. Watching it work is like watching a gardener tending to a rock garden, performing its tasks with a methodical, thoughtful rhythm, preparing a gift for humanity that sits patiently in the red dust, trusting that one day someone will come to pick it up and bring the story home. Tucked underneath the belly of the Perseverance rover was a tiny, fragile pioneer named Ingenuity, a 4-pound helicopter that became the first machine to ever achieve powered flight in the thin air of another world. With rotors spinning at a frantic 2,400 revolutions per minute to grip the tenuous atmosphere, it lifted off the ground, not with a roar, but with a determined hum, hovering in the pink sky like a mechanical dragonfly. It was only meant to fly 5 times, yet it soared dozens of times, darting across the landscape to scout the path ahead, proving that even in an atmosphere that is barely there, it is possible to rise above the ground and see the world from a new perspective. Its flights were brief moments of aerial ballet, silent dances in the sky that ended with soft landings on copper-colored legs, a tiny speck of human ingenuity floating alone in the vastness, expanding the horizon of what is possible with a lightness of spirit that defied the gravity of the planet. For decades, we could only look at Mars. But recently, thanks to sensitive microphones on board the new landers, we have finally been able to close our eyes and simply listen to the ambient soundtrack of the Red Planet. The recordings reveal a soundscape that is deeply soothing and minimalist. A low, hollow rumble of wind blowing across the open plains, uninterrupted by birdsong, traffic, or rustling leaves. It is a pure, white noise of the cosmos, a consistent, bass-heavy hum that vibrates through the frame of the lander, sounding like the ocean heard from inside a seashell, or the wind howling outside a warm cabin during a winter storm. Listening to it connects you viscerally to the environment, transporting you instantly to that lonely, dusty surface where the wind has been blowing the same lonely note for billions of years, a lullaby of air moving over stone that invites you to drift away on its invisible current. Scattered across the pristine surface of the planet are the silent remnants of our arrival, a collection of parachutes, heat shields, and back shells that served their purpose and then came to rest forever in the dust. While we might call this debris on Mars, these objects look more like modern art installations, bright splashes of white and orange fabric lying against the red sand, motionless and peaceful. They are the discarded cocoons of exploration, the shells that protected the delicate robots during their fiery descent, now lying empty and quiet, like fallen petals after a bloom. There is a strange poignancy to these objects, artifacts of human engineering that will never rust or decay in the dry air, sitting perfectly preserved for eternity, as silent markers of the exact spots where humanity first touched the ground, peaceful monuments to the brief, violent moments of arrival that precede the long, quiet years of exploration. In a charming display of robotic vanity, the rovers occasionally pause their scientific work to extend their long robotic arms, turn the camera back upon themselves, and snap a high-resolution self-portrait against the backdrop of the alien horizon. These images show us the machines not as cold scientific instruments, but as dusty, rugged travelers, their wheels coated in red soil, and their decks accumulated with the patina of their journey, looking like weary hikers taking a moment to rest. Seeing them alone in the vast landscape evokes a deep sense of empathy, a connection to these brave little avatars that stand in for us millions of miles away. It is a quiet moment of reflection where the robot looks at itself and we look at the robot, acknowledging the solitude of the mission and sending a silent wave of gratitude across the void to the machine that is our eyes and ears in the great silence. For years, the InSight lander sat motionless on the Elysium Planitia, pressing a sensitive electronic ear against the cold ground to listen for the faint, internal grumblings of the planet's core. What it heard was not the violent shaking of tectonic destruction, but a series of soft, resonant hums and murmurs, known as Marsquakes, which sound like the planet is stretching and settling into a more comfortable position as it cools. These vibrations are the acoustic signature of the planet relaxing, the sound of the crust contracting and shifting slightly as it releases the heat of its formation, a low-frequency purring that travels through the solid rock for hundreds of kilometers. Listening to these quakes is like listening to an old house settling in the middle of a quiet night, a comforting reminder that the planet is physically adjusting itself in its sleep, releasing tension in small, harmless shudders that echo through the stone solitude, proving that there is still warmth and movement deep inside the frozen exterior. In the pristine white expanse of Antarctica, scientists discovered a small, potato-sized rock that had traveled across the cosmic ocean to deliver a silent message from the ancient past of Mars, known as ALH 84001. This meteorite was blasted off the red planet billions of years ago by a gentle impact, drifting through the void before finally coming to rest in the Earth's ice, acting as a natural time capsule. Inside this stone traveler, researchers found microscopic structures that look hauntingly like the fossils of ancient bacteria, tiny worm-like shapes preserved in the rock that sparked a global dream of connection. Whether these shapes are truly biological or merely a trick of geology remains a beautiful question. But the rock itself serves as a tangible link between worlds. A physical piece of Mars that you can hold in your hand, whispering the possibility that billions of years ago, when Mars was wet and warm, it might have been a cradle for simple, microscopic life that slept in the stones waiting to be found. The relationship between Earth and Mars is not one of isolation, but of a long, slow exchange of materials that has been occurring for eons. A cosmic game of catch played across millions of kilometers. Powerful impacts on Mars can launch rocks into space with enough speed to escape gravity. And eventually, the pull of the Sun and Earth guides these travelers to our atmosphere, where they fall as shooting stars to become meteorites on our ground. This means that the Earth is sprinkled with pieces of Mars, and it is almost certain that pieces of Earth, launched by our own ancient impacts, are currently resting in the red dust of the Martian plains. We are not two separate islands, but neighbors who have been swapping soil and history for billions of years, creating a shared geological heritage where the dust of one world eventually finds its way to the surface of the other, binding us together in a physical cycle of exchange that defies the emptiness of space. Long before telescopes or rockets were even dreamed of, the ancient stargazers of Mesopotamia stood on the ziggurats of Sumer and tracked the wandering path of the red planet with naked eyes, etching their observations into wet clay tablets that have survived for millennia. They called this wandering light Nergal. And though they told stories of gods and myths, their mathematical tracking of its movement was surprisingly precise, laying the foundation for all the astronomy that would follow. There is a profound sense of continuity in realizing that when we look up at Mars today, we are seeing the exact same photon of red light that captivated our ancestors 4,000 years ago, sharing a moment of wonder across the bridge of time. The clay of Earth holding their writing and the dust of Mars floating in space are connected by the human gaze, a lineage of curiosity that stretches from the first scribes who looked up in awe to the modern rovers that look down at the soil, all seeking to understand the same silent red neighbor. In the quiet year of 1610, the legendary astronomer Galileo Galilei turned his primitive hand-ground telescope toward the night sky and became the first human being to see Mars not as a wandering star, but as a physical world with its own distinct shape. Through his modest glass lens, the planet resolved from a mere point of red light into a small, imperfect disk, a tiny sphere floating in the vast darkness that hinted at a reality far more complex than anyone had imagined. Although his view was blurry and trembling, that singular moment marked the beginning of a new relationship between humanity and the cosmos, shifting our perspective from mythology to observation. It evokes a sense of deep wonder to imagine him standing alone in the Italian night, squinting through the eyepiece and realizing that the red light was actually a place, a silent sibling to Earth hanging in the void, waiting patiently for the day when our vision would sharpen enough to see its mountains and valleys, starting a journey of discovery that continues to this day. In the late 19th century, astronomers, peering through atmospheric hazes, began to draw intricate, hand-sketched maps of the Martian surface, tracing delicate lines across the globe that they poetically named canali, or channels. These maps were beautiful works of art born from a trick of the eye and the romance of the human imagination, creating a vision of Mars as a dying world crisscrossed by vast irrigation networks built by an ancient civilization to save their drying planet. While we now know these lines were optical illusions caused by the human brain connecting random dots, the maps remain as testament to our deep desire to find connection and life in the universe. They represent a time when science and dreaming were inextricably linked, a period of romantic longing where we looked at a dusty, empty world and saw a reflection of our own hopes and fears, projecting a story of survival onto the silent face of the planet that fueled our passion to go there and see the truth for ourselves. If you were to stand on the surface of Mars holding a standard magnetic compass in your hand, you would find that the needle does not swing decisively to point north as it does on Earth, but instead floats aimlessly, free from any invisible pull. Because the planet lost its global magnetic field billions of years ago, there is no magnetic North Pole to guide the way, meaning that navigation here relies on the ancient, timeless methods of reading the stars and the landscape itself. It creates a profound sense of freedom, a world where the cardinal directions are not dictated by a magnetic force, but must be chosen by the traveler navigating by the position of the sun and the familiar constellations above. It invites you to let go of the rigid need for direction and orientation, wandering across the plains guided only by the visible landmarks of craters and mountains, moving through a landscape where north is just a concept rather than a magnetic command, allowing for a true, untethered exploration of the wild. The dance between Earth and Mars is a slow, rhythmic waltz around the sun that brings the two worlds close together in a perfect alignment only once every 26 months. This celestial synchronization opens a rare and precious launch window, a brief period where the energy required to travel between the planets is minimized, acting like a cosmic bridge that forms across the void to connect our shores. Space agencies wait patiently for this moment, preparing their ships to ride the wave of orbital mechanics, launching them on a curved path that intercepts the red planet at just the right second. It teaches us the immense value of patience and timing, reminding us that we cannot force the universe to move at our speed, but must wait for the natural rhythms of the solar system to align, breathing in sync with the planets and moving only when the path opens up naturally, a lesson in moving with the flow of cosmic energy rather than fighting against it. Once a spacecraft slips the bonds of Earth and sets sail for the red planet, it enters a long, silent period of cruising that lasts anywhere from 6 to 9 months, a voyage of pure drifting through the deep ocean of space. For the majority of this journey, the engines are turned off, and the ship simply coasts on the momentum of its launch, carried by the invisible currents of gravity in a state of frictionless grace. It is a time of profound suspension, where the Earth shrinks to a bright star behind and Mars grows slowly from a red dot ahead, a peaceful interlude where the traveler hangs in the balance between two worlds. This long, quiet coasting is the ultimate expression of trust in the laws of physics, a surrender to the silent velocity of the void where there is nothing to do but wait, float, and let the gentle curvature of space-time carry you safely to your destination, drifting in a dreamless, mechanical sleep until the red horizon rises to meet you. There exists a grand and visionary dream shared by dreamers and scientists alike, where humanity gently wakes the sleeping planet from its frozen slumber, transforming the dry red dust into a lush, breathing garden of green and blue. This concept, known as terraforming, is not a quick fix, but a slow, nurturing process of healing a world that dried out billions of years ago, coaxing the atmosphere to thicken and the ice to melt through patience, warmth, and time. Imagine standing on a future Mars, where the sky has turned a soft azure, watching as ancient riverbeds fill once again with sparkling water that rushes over the stones, carrying the sound of life back to the silent canyons and filling the air with the scent of rain. It is a vision of returning the planet to its youthful vigor, planting seeds in the copper soil that will grow into vast forests capable of breathing oxygen into the air, creating a second sanctuary for life in the solar system that is built not on conquest, but on the restoration of a lost beauty, turning the silence into a symphony of rustling leaves and flowing streams. To awaken the frozen world, scientists dream of wrapping the planet in a warm, invisible blanket that captures the gentle heat of the distant sun, allowing the surface to thaw. The theory relies on the natural magic of the greenhouse effect, where liberating the vast stores of carbon dioxide trapped in the polar ice caps would create a thicker atmosphere capable of holding on to thermal energy, much like tucking the planet in under a heavy quilt. This warming would be a slow, rhythmic thawing, a planetary spring that lasts for hundreds of years, gradually raising the temperature until the harsh chill of the vacuum is replaced by a comfortable, temperate climate where the frost on the ground melts into liquid water. It is a dream of comfort and protection, creating a cozy environment where the planet is shielded from the cold of space by its own atmosphere, allowing the ground to soften and the air to become dense enough to carry warmth to every corner of the globe, transforming a frozen desert into a warm, inviting home. Mars resides on the very edge of a cosmic boundary known as the Goldilocks zone, a region where the conditions for life are neither too hot nor too cold, but potentially just right for the existence of liquid water. This precarious positioning means that the planet is not dead, but simply waiting for the right circumstances to unlock its potential, sitting on the precipice of habitability where oceans and rain are possible if the atmosphere were just a little thicker. It is a world of sleeping potentiality, resting in the exact orbital lane where the sun's energy is sufficient to sustain life, provided the planet is nurtured back to health with care and patience. It reminds us of the delicate balance required for existence, existing in a state of suspended animation just outside the door of the party, waiting to be invited back into the circle of living worlds. It is a hopeful location, suggesting that the barrier between a dead rock and a living biosphere is fragile and can be crossed, offering a second chance for life to flourish in the dim, gentle light of the outer solar system. In the distant future, human settlers may establish a beautiful evening ritual of sitting in quiet observation to watch the sun dip below the alien horizon, a moment of reflection at the end of the day. Imagine resting in a comfortable chair on the porch of a Martian habitat, looking out through a large window as the red landscape darkens and the sky begins its magical transformation into cool, twilight blue. The sun, smaller and fainter than you are used to, sinks slowly toward the jagged silhouette of a distant crater rim, casting long, dramatic shadows that stretch across the dunes like fingers of darkness, signaling the arrival of the resting hours. As the blue halo surrounds the disappearing star, a profound sense of peace settles over the colony, a shared moment of silence where the work of the day is done and the only task remaining is to appreciate the unique beauty of your new home. It is a romantic vision of the future, where humans find comfort in a strange land, adapting their souls to the rhythm of a new world, and finding peace in the cool alien light. If we were to plant forests on this distant world to breathe life into the air, the leaves would likely evolve into a striking, deep color to survive under the weaker, distant sun. Because the sunlight reaching Mars is less than half as bright as it is on Earth, plants would need to be greedy for every photon of energy, abandoning the reflection of green light to absorb the full spectrum of illumination, creating forests of deep violet, rich crimson, or even jet black. Imagine walking through a grove of these alien trees, their dark, velvety foliage contrasting beautifully with the red soil and the pink sky, forming a shadowy canopy that drinks in the warmth of the day and holds it through the cold night. It is a testament to the adaptability of life, proving that nature will always find a way to thrive, twisting and changing its form to suit the environment, creating a new definition of what a garden can look like, inviting you to visualize yourself resting in the shade of a dark, velvet forest that is protected, cool, and undeniably alive. In the coming decade, a momentous reunion is being planned, where the red soil of our distant neighbor will finally make the long voyage across the cosmic ocean to touch the blue soil of Earth. The Mars Sample Return mission represents the closing of a great circle, A complex choreography of rockets and robots working together to lift a handful of dust and rock from the surface and carry it safely through the void to our waiting hands. These precious samples, currently resting in sealed tubes like messages in bottles, will bring with them the ancient secrets of the solar system, holding the potential to answer our deepest questions about life and history within their crystal structures. It is a gesture of intimacy between planets, a physical exchange that breaks the barrier of distance, allowing us to hold a piece of another world and realize that we are not separate from the cosmos, but deeply woven into its material fabric, waiting for the day when the two worlds physically touch. Beyond the science and the exploration lies a profound hope that shines in the human heart, identifying the red planet as the most promising sanctuary for our future among the stars. It stands as the premier candidate for a second home, a place where humanity might one day branch out to establish a new lineage of civilization, learning to live in harmony with a different sky and a different gravity. This is not about leaving Earth behind, but about expanding the definition of where we belong, creating a sibling civilization that looks back at the pale blue dot with love and gratitude while forging a new path in the red dust. It offers a horizon of infinite possibility, a blank canvas where we can dream of new ways of living, new architectures, and new societies, finding comfort in the knowledge that the universe is vast enough to hold us in more than one cradle, offering a backup light in the darkness of space that ensures our story continues. There is a gentle, comforting permanence to the Martian surface, born from the lack of rain and the stillness of the tectonic plates, which turns the entire planet into a vast, open-air museum of history. Because the environment is so static and dry, the marks we leave there, the tire tracks of the rovers, the landing gear of the ships, and eventually, the footprints of the first astronauts will remain etched in the soil for millions of years, undisturbed by the erasing hand of time. A single footprint pressed into the red sand today could outlast civilizations on Earth, becoming a permanent monument to the moment when life reached out and touched another world. This thought evokes a deep sense of legacy and endurance, knowing that our efforts are not fleeting or forgotten, but are preserved in the quiet, frozen archives of the planet, waiting in perfect silence for the distant future to discover them, a testament to the fact that we were here, we explored, and we mattered. At this very moment, as you lie here in the comfort of your room, the red planet is out there spinning silently in the vast, velvet darkness, continuing its eternal rotation without a sound. It is existing right now, billions of kilometers away, its dusty plains bathed in the weak starlight, its mountains casting long shadows across the empty craters, completely at peace and indifferent to the worries of your day. Visualizing this simultaneous existence creates a profound sense of perspective, anchoring you to a reality that is larger, slower, and quieter than your own life. A massive object of stone and ice that is simply being, floating in the void with a calm gravity that you can almost feel pulling you toward sleep. It waits there in the dark, a steady, reliable presence that will be there when you wake up, a silent guardian of the night that spins slowly, rhythmically, and endlessly, inviting you to join its peaceful revolution and drift into the quiet. Whenever you gaze up into the night sky and spot that steady, unblinking ruby light amongst the twinkling stars, you are connecting with a shared dream that unites all of humanity in a web of wonder. You know that up there, on that distant speck of light, there are machines built by human hands that are currently roaming the desolate sands, acting as our sleepless avatars in the great unknown. They are out there right now, watching the sun rise and set on our behalf, carrying our curiosity and our hope on their metal shoulders, never sleeping so that we can rest easy knowing that the exploration continues. This connection turns the night sky from a cold void into a populated neighborhood, a place where we have extended our reach and our senses, wrapping the solar system in a blanket of human awareness. As you close your eyes now, let that red point of light be your anchor, a distant nightlight that watches over you, promising that while you sleep, the universe remains full of wonder, beauty, and quiet, waiting for you to dream. And so, our quiet journey across the red planet comes to a gentle close. The exploration is finished, and the horizon is still. We have drifted over the rust-colored dunes, floated past the sleeping giant of Olympus Mons, and watched the blue twilight fade into the velvet silence of the Martian night. The dust has finally settled, and the winds have whispered their final lullaby to the ancient rocks. Remember that the stillness you found there is now within you. You are made of the same stardust as those distant mountains, a silent traveler connected to the vast, peaceful rhythm of the cosmos. You are safe here, anchored in the gravity of your own rest. If your eyes feel heavy, you have full permission to let go of the waking world. Let your slow breathing carry you into the deep, dreamless, dark good night.